they take a step towards promoting entrepreneurship as well as innovation. And we have the privilege of having two such wonderful personalities on Rise and Shine Studios here with us, and it's my honor and privilege to welcome Ms. Cheryl Edison, the serial entrepreneur and Makerspace authority, as well as Mr. Kalinga Gunawardhana, tech entrepreneur. Good morning to you both, as well as it's wonderful to have you here. So, innovation and entrepreneurship, how was the experience promoting that in Sri Lanka so far?
I've had the most wonderful time here in Sri Lanka. Everyone has been welcoming and very open-hearted and open-minded, and I've been able to offer ideas and say, take what you will and leave the rest, and we've had a very collaborative and playful conversation.
And now you've been privileged with the experience that you have had all over the world, and talking about the spirit of the Sri Lankans here, how was it? How convenient was it to pass on what you have learned to the Sri Lankans here in Sri Lanka?
You know, the thing that I'm seeing that's changing all over the world is this shift from very data-based engagement. So science, technology, engineering, and math, which has been the focus in education and the focus in business, is giving way to the addition of art. Because it's in art that innovation begins to occur. It's in that playful space that's not just the zeros and the ones, but between those spaces where you can listen to what wants to happen and begin to allow that to occur.
Well, yes, it's about a makerspace, a big workshop, a massive opportunity to all the Sri Lankans out there to get into entrepreneurship, to start things, and that is here in Sri Lanka, happening for the very first time, which actually happened during the last couple of days here in Sri Lanka. So we'd like to turn to Mr. Kalinga to know about Makerspace, how effective it is, and what actually this is.
It's actually about creating new things simply. So Makerspace are like creating, designing things in your mind and coming these things into reality. So maybe you don't need a tool, specific tool, but tools are helping, that's all. But everything is coming into your mind, that's all. So what we are trying to do in the Makerspaces are to come these things, touch these things by creating these using the 3D printers, and then designing these and putting into your mobile phones and some kind of things like that. So that was our target in Makerspaces, and every entrepreneur should use it in the American centers as well, because there are like pretty expensive 3D printers there, and most of the engineering students and the other school students can use it very well.
And I guess while we talk about how the workshop was influential, we could take a look at how the workshop inspired a lot of Sri Lankans out there as well. And meanwhile, I would like to hear, how was the participation of the Sri Lankans? What was the spirit like for them to take part in the workshop that you had?
I think that the most interesting thing about engaging with Sri Lankans in Kandy and also in Colombo was that there was a great openness to understand that although you can have lots of tools, you can have this fabulous 3D printer, or you can have a laser cutter, actually innovation occurs between people. When people who are diverse and who don't match one another and who think in completely different ways can connect and offer an exchange of ideas. And so a makerspace is about coming together with your community and your creativity to link to commerce.
And linking about the entrepreneurship as well as the ideas of commerce, Kalinga, what do you think, how assistive that was bringing the entire Makerspace to Sri Lanka? How assistive was that?
For the entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs, that for an example, unless they are using a mobile app or any other software development scenario, they need to use some kind of touchable devices. So how we can achieve that, how to make the prototypes. For example, now the IoT, Internet of Things, are booming. So how we can achieve these things by integrating these things in a makerspace, collaborating with ideas and collaborating with people and brainstorming in a single space. That's what we are looking for in some kind of a makerspace. So even any student can come there Any engineering student can come there. Any normal person can come there and give the idea, and we can have a discussion with them to give a better idea about the business process, how it works, how we are modeling a go-to-market strategy. That's kind of things that we can use.
Well, yes, we did see the Ambassador of America has also visited this particular workshop. And how was the response? It has been a great honor to Sri Lankans when it comes to getting inauguration ceremony such as that. How was the response? And just speak.
I really loved seeing the way representatives. So here we see the gentleman from ICTA who leads ICTA. He was very open to the ideas. He gave some beautiful remarks. The ambassador made some very inspiring comments, and we all came together with our ideas and combined them at this event. And so that was really indicative of what can happen in a makerspace. It's an exchange of ideas where good things then occur as a result of each person offering what they have and their perspective.
Well, yes. Who was able to take part in this kind? Was it the normal youth? Or how could one take part in Makerspace workshop?
People just show up.
Yeah, they just show up because there will be an instructor who's doing these sessions. Anybody can who's interested, they can join with the American centers and participate for these events.
So if somebody is interested, they can probably contact the American Center?
Yeah. Yes, contact the American Center. But to remember that, the most important thing, it can be someone who is 80 years old with white hair or 8 years old and is just beginning to play. It's the big combination between all of the generations and the different points of view, men, women, children, who come together to feel free to just show up and present yourself and say, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to bring my ideas into reality.
Talking of which, it kind of leads me to this question. Now, there can be a person with a good idea, but he might not have the technical expertise to bring out that idea.
Yeah.
How would this be addressed if a person joins you?
Right. So one of the great things about very successful companies is that each person does the thing they're best at. So there's a CEO who's good at leading. There's a CTO who's great with technology. There's a CMO who's good at marketing. They can overlap with what they do, but they hold their roles so that then they can potentialize what wants to happen next. So someone can come with an idea for a product and not need to know how to build it. And there they can find someone who could build it. So one of the core concepts of building innovation is to not need to be one person by themselves, but to have the ability to create a team and then collaborate.
Well, Israel, Makerspace is one of your brainchilds. So just tell us how it brought into the world, and how was it during those days and how is it now?
Right. So, the concept of a makerspace began back in the days of Hewlett-Packard, when Hewlett, this guy, and Packard, another guy, were at the university. They had an idea for a product. They didn't know exactly how or where they wanted to make it, and took a garage, the first garage development, and began building this product. They were then supported by a professor and fed by a first purchase from the U.S. government. So it's this combination of oftentimes government purchase, the university for thinking and emotional support, because it's challenging to be an entrepreneur, and then good ideas inside a space. Because without a space, it's really difficult to bring your ideas into reality. We're human. We share a cup of tea. We have relationships, and that's how businesses are born. And in fact, that's how Silicon Valley was born, where there's a lot of companies that come into the tech reality. Makerspace is the next generation of building things in your garage. So let's say somebody has an idea. They're sitting at their kitchen table. Usually, they'll go then to the coffee shop where there's internet and they can speak to somebody and work not quite by themselves. The next step could be co-working, but since here there isn't really co-working, the Makerspace that is by the American Center, or the American Corners, and also ICTA now is going to be launching Makerspaces across Sri Lanka. Those makerspaces are places where people can come together and get the basic tools they need and information so that they can not be alone in their house at the kitchen table, not just be in the coffee shop, but actually be recognized as entrepreneurs and bring their ideas into reality.
Well, Sri Lanka is a developing country. How do you see that, putting Makerspace together when it comes to a country like us? How effective it will be in the future?
So I have to say, this is my 5th day here. I don't know anything about Sri Lanka. I'm learning. I'm beginning to learn. The only thing that I can tell you is that I have launched companies on 4 continents, in 47 industries, and everywhere else that I have been, every other time I have seen smart people come together with new ideas and assist one another, new things happen, and the economies begin to boom from the grassroots up. I have met more smart people and more warm-hearted people here in Sri Lanka in 5 days than anywhere else in the world. This is a wonderful country filled with incredible people. I am sure that here in Sri Lanka, amazing things are trying to happen, and so I believe they will.
Meanwhile, talking about the expertise that you share while visiting other countries, and you worked across 4 continents, and which means, okay, compared to the prior experiences that you gained with regards to technical expertise, or could be the whole promotion of innovation, how it is the innovation being promoted here in Sri Lanka?
Okay, so maybe you're asking me about the challenges compared to the opportunity.
True.
Okay. Here, what I have met in this short period of time, what I have discovered is that the learning in the schools is phenomenal. The amount of data, the amount of information that people gain in schools is extraordinary. The thing that I see that I believe will happen next is that I'm missing this feeling of play. I'm missing this feeling of, hey, now that you have this information, what would be fun to do with it? What is a challenge in your life that you could use this information to then solve? The feeling of play is not seen or felt, and I would like to see more of that play. And that's what I see in my discussions with the NIE and with ICTA about bringing forth not just this, wow, how much information, but also, what can I do with this information? That's what I think is happening next here in Sri Lanka.
STEM and STEAM, it happens to be one of your concepts. We'd like to know about it.
Well, so I can't really claim the concept, but I can say that I really believe it is what's happening. STEM is the basic information: science, technology, engineering, math. This is the data that forms the foundation of what can happen. A is art, and with the art comes all the possibilities of innovation. It's that playful moment. Here's a makerspace that I've built in Silicon Valley, and it kind of gives that sense of an adult playground. So this notion of STEAM gives the energy of taking those pieces of information, science, technology, engineering, math, which is incredibly given here and available to everyone here, and turns it into commerce through innovation. And that's what I believe wants to happen next here in Sri Lanka.
And you did mention the fact that you had discussions with the ECTA, and you did discuss with a lot of entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Yes. You see a lot of ideas, but we need infrastructure to accompany those ideas. So what do you think should be the way forward for Sri Lanka when it comes to the infrastructural development for innovation and entrepreneurship?
Okay. So again, I can tell you what I've seen in this short time. And so I'm giving you, based on what I've seen, I could be wrong. You know better. I'll tell you my perspective. So first of all, I met with teachers and leaders of the NIE. They want the people in the classes to use the information and not just eat it and then push it back out. Because of that, that opening in the education system is the #1 most important thing for the next generation. In the meantime, the structure is also coming from ICTA, which is beautiful because ICTA is moving this notion from innovation hubs to makerspaces where people can come together and they can exchange ideas and exchange not just this foundational data, but also exchange the how-to and begin to mentor one another. Because the way that companies are born is through filling in the gaps between what you know and what I know, what you want to do and what he thinks may be possible. And so those makerspaces create the structure for that to occur, for you to mentor me and me to mentor him and him to mentor her, because it cannot be one to many anymore. It must be many to many. That's the concept of entrepreneurship, and that's the core concept of a makerspace.
Meanwhile, Kalinga, one more question. Now we do have the privilege of having her expertise here. So just in brief, what is the message to all the entrepreneurs there? How they can come and combine with all the efforts that you've done?
The thing is, when it comes to the entrepreneurs, especially in the tech entrepreneurs, they are a bit different. They just need a computer mainly and a proper internet connection. That's all. They don't need a large office spaces. They don't need a bank loan. Nothing. So, what I see is we have a lot of good engineers. They are like really brilliant engineers. What we lack is we don't have the marketing expertise. We don't have the branding expertise. How to market these things. When it comes to the Sri Lanka, we can create a number of brilliant apps, but some of them are dying because we are not approaching the proper markets. What we can do is, she is actually a branding and marketing specialist. We had a good chat on how to market these things, how to brand these things. So the Makerspaces will help for the people to develop and bring these ideas into reality while we are having a market strategy. So that is where she comes into the show. The expertise is really great, and the mentorship is great, and that's what the tech entrepreneurs can do. So once one tech entrepreneur can mentor by her, then an entrepreneur can mentor the others. So that should be the way. So that's it.
Thank you, Kalinga. And though you need to have a wider discussion, we can't do it. But this is where I would like to thank Cheryl Edison, the serial entrepreneur and Makerspace Authority, for joining us. It was indeed a pleasure and a privilege to have you. And indeed, Kalinga, thank you for joining us as well. And this is where we'd like to say goodbye to all our viewers. But before that, Cheryl, talking about the entrepreneurship, it was indeed a privilege to have you, like I mentioned. And then Makerspace Authority as well as Kalinga Gunawardhana who joined here. Thank you very much for joining, and it was indeed a pleasure to have with us.
Well, yes, we are winding up the guest session for the moment, and we'll be having some music and some more from Rise and Shine's Midweek edition. Thanking them once again. Stay tuned.